Good to have you with us. For more information on the show, you can check it out, BillMartinezShow.com. We've got a great show again planned for you this morning here, so thank you for joining in. John Holtzman is going to start the hour in just a few moments. We're going to be talking about China's new way of spying, hiding in plain sight. Plus, Biden says the ICC's Karim Khan's calls for persecution of Netanyahu and Israeli defense minister is disgusting. And of course, we'll talk certainly about what Benjamin Netanyahu is calling a huge mistake that had occurred, with the injuring and the deaths of civilians in a recent attack there in Gaza. Jeff Kemp, the former NFL QB, will also join us as we continue to talk more about, good and evil. And I don't know if you've thought about this, is that, what is it that the devil doesn't want you to know right now? And I can see where, especially people of faith, are wondering, what is going on here? It seems that, our country, particularly, is a bit unhinged, and that we're doing things that are a bit uncharacteristic, that we seem to be siding more with evil than good. Have you noticed that? I mean, whether we're talking about the things that we're doing to our children, letting them be exposed to a theory of having a sex change. And of course, they're hiding clearly what's resulting from it. Not a lot of success to talk about. If anything, we've got an increase in the number of suicides that's happening amongst young people. But we can't talk about that because, these theorists, these people who somehow think that, it takes a village, right? It's no longer about the parents' responsibility to raise their children. Now it's a village. So now if you got village idiots running the village and they want to carve up your children's sexuality because of some theory, then you're not supposed to say anything. And God forbid if you say something, if you do, then you could be penalized for it. You could be jailed. And in some cases, we're finding out that, even if you want to adopt a child, if you somehow resist, their agenda, the agenda of the gay movement and all that is going around that is really turning America's traditions on its head, which when you think about it, I mean, it's probably about less than 1%. But for that less than 1%, the 99% are supposed to go along with this craziness. And somehow, how dare you? You're some kind of phobe, designated phobe of some sort because you say, this is crazy. What do you mean you want to change my kid's sex? Because the kid was in a classroom and some, touchy-feely teacher felt that this was the right thing to do. But, you can't talk about the damage that has been done, suicide rate that has taken place on these kids that went ahead and went along with the program. They convinced themselves because of the teachers, not even parents, but teachers, not even pastors, but teachers in a classroom. Boy, who would have thought the teachers were, they've learned so much that we would turn over our health to classroom teachers. I mean, it's insane when you think about it, right? But this is what's happening with our culture today. So it's clear that evil has raised its head, and all it takes is good people not to say anything. And here it is. Look at the odds. For 1%, basically, 99% are just cowering. We've been conditioned. What is wrong with us that we are allowing a small minority of people to do this kind of damage to our children and ruin their lives? Because there's no retrofit. There's no coming back once body parts have been removed, okay? This is it. This is the rest of their life. They've been altered this way. And they should know better because we've talked about this before. You can cut off, physical parts of the body, breast and genitalia and that. But what about the DNA? What about the deep DNA that's ingrained in in the cellular structure that God designed in us? Like I said, we've got a good show planned for you, so stay with us. It's coming up next right here.
If you're 65 or older and Medicare is your main source of insurance, pay close attention right now and listen for details on how you may save thousands of dollars on your healthcare costs. Did you know that Medicare can pay for things like dental visits, home delivery of drugs, even a gym membership? Call us right now and learn how to unlock all your Medicare benefits. Medicare and supplemental plans that we provide can even offer you drug coverage with zero copays and pay for transportation to your doctors. Medicare plans can offer you wonderful money-saving benefits, but you've got to call now. We'll help you get the most out of your Medicare. Make this free, no-obligation call now. Save a ton of money on your healthcare costs and get the code to unlock all your earned Medicare benefits. Paid for by Senior Choice Plans. 800-796-3954. 800-796-3954. That's 800-796-3954.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Bill Martinez Live, a program about current events, our culture, our values, our politics, and our future. And now, Bill Martinez.
We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.
It's 6 minutes after the top of the hour, and as we reported earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged yesterday that a tragic mistake, quote unquote, was made in an Israeli airstrike that set fire to a tent camp in Rafah, killing at least 45 Palestinians. Now, the strike killed 2 senior Hamas militants, but it appeared to target them in a humanitarian zone where the military had told refugees to shelter from attack. Many were buried under the rubble, according to reports. Israeli officials said they've opened up an official investigation into the civilian deaths. With us right now to talk about this and more is John Holtzman. John, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here, Bill.
Well, help us understand here. John, by the way, is the author of The Last Best Hope, A History of American Realism, which we're going to talk more about, over these next 2 segments. But right now, John, what did you make of this unfortunate incident that occurred in Israel?
It's an absolute tragedy. But one of the things that gets lost, as you say, in the mainstream media is that the Israelis, when you fight in urban warfare, it is the bloodiest kind of fighting there is. Anybody who knows about World War II, Stalingrad, Berlin, or even more recently with Mosul when we took out ISIS there, you're fighting street to street, house to house. There's going to be collateral damage. There has been less collateral damage with Israel's invasion of Gaza after the horrible pogrom against them in October. There's been less collateral damage than in any conflict of urban warfare in history. And yet mainstream media would have you believe that they're just carpet bombing block after block without paying any attention. And so the tragedy of this mistake, and mistakes happen in war all the time, the tragedy of this mistake is that it confirms this false narrative.
Is the mistakes like this exacerbated because Israel's hands are tied behind their back, so to speak, in the way they're conducting this operation? I mean, like so few others. I know we did this in Vietnam, but certainly in the modern era, when you have a war that takes place, there are few countries that tell the enemy in advance where they're going to strike. And Israel has been very careful. They have moved rather judiciously. And I think because of their sensitivity with the international community, the pressure of the Biden administration, I think that this has had an effect on their strategy and how they've conducted their warfare.
There's no doubt that it has, that they're doing things that are almost unheard of. They knock on the door literally and say, we're coming. This is not how you fight an optimal war. They've totally given up the element of surprise, which is vital in urban warfare, because they're so cowed by the international community, the restraints of the Biden people. There's no doubt that Israeli soldiers have died as a result of this. Israeli generals will tell you this to your face, that this is going on. And the tragedy, again, is that somehow, despite all this incredible care they're taking, people act as though they have no right to defend themselves. It would be as if in World War II, we bombed, and not so politely, Europe, and
Mhm.
Germany was being bombed in the UN, and a bunch of unelected bureaucrats said, the poor German people, let's lay off and negotiate with the Nazis and not fully take over all of Germany. It's just ludicrous.
Mhm.
General Sherman is right. War is all hell. There's no doubt about that. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But the Israelis are merely defending themselves. I think this point can't be made too strongly. And if they don't restore deterrence, it's very clear. Hamas have said if we get the chance to do another October 7th, we will. And
Right.
so they have to restore deterrence. Otherwise, this will happen again and again and again. And I think this is the international community living on an alternate planet, frankly.
Well, without a doubt, because 80% of the Palestinians, they voted Hamas in to leadership to be their government. And these were the same people standing on the sidelines as the women who were raped and the carnage of Jews was paraded down the street, including the kicking of women's breast on the dirt road like soccer balls. And these people were cheering this on. I mean, this is really a messed up community. I mean, so much so that even the Egyptians, their neighbors, say, "No, you're not welcome here. We don't want you here." Jordanians don't want them there. None of
No.
their neighbors want them there. And then what is Joe Biden? Joe Biden's answer is, oh, well, we'll just fly him into the United States. Oh, brilliant, Joe. That's a great idea. Let's do that.
The problem with Joe Biden and the joke around foreign policy circles and political risk circles I hang out in is that Joe Biden has a two-state solution. Those two states are Wisconsin and Michigan.
Yes.
Biden only cares about politics. He's in a terrible position because if he continues to be pro-Israeli, as traditionally the Democratic Party have been, he loses the kids who have to come out and vote in enough numbers to get him over the hump. He also loses a very radicalized Arab American community in places like Dearborn, Michigan, quite concentrated, quite political. And so he doesn't want to lose them. But I mean, I knew Lady Thatcher late in her life, and she gave me some wisdom. She said, John, if you end up standing for everything, you stand for nothing. And so
Exactly.
Biden careering between I'm with Israel, but I'm not, I'm with Hamas, but I'm not, is alienating everybody. The kids don't like what he's doing. They call him Genocide Joe, incredibly. The
Yeah.
Arab American community doesn't like it, but 4 out of 5 Americans support Israel in this war. And nothing is the campuses have done has moved that number one iota. So
Mhm.
80% of Americans are pro-Israeli, so they don't like it when he's seen to favor Hamas. So by being everything to everyone, Joe Biden is nothing to anyone.
Well, John, maybe America is starting to realize, in the words of Barack Obama, that elections have consequences and leadership starts at the top. The president of the United States sets the tone for leadership. And I see it, I see the ramifications and how it connects in corporate America and other forms of university campuses, for example. When leadership is compromised at the top, go down and look at the fruit of that tree. And this is the Joe Biden tree of leadership, which is incompetence. And it's a manifestation. When I was growing up, John, and you probably remember the Peter Principle as well, Joe Biden is the manifestation of the Peter Principle, in my humble opinion.
No, look, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, who worked for both
Mhm.
Democrats and Republicans, a grand old establishment man, a very cognizant guy who helped get us through the Cold War, said, look, I like in his memoir, I like Joe Biden, but he's been wrong about every major foreign policy issue over the last generation. And
Right.
this is absolutely true. He's wrong about Iraq. He's wrong about Afghanistan. He's wrong about the financial crisis. He's wrong about the rise of China. He's wrong about trying to take bin Laden out. If you look at the record, these people believe in a philosophy, Wilsonianism of the center left, the establishment center left, that
Mhm.
believes in fictitious things like the international community and not in real things like American national sovereignty. In an America First foreign policy that serves American interests, which is what realism is all about in the book that I wrote, The Last Best Hope, and thank you for mentioning, I wrote all about how can we do this better? And the Republican Party have to do better. And fortunately, The best thing, one of the best things Donald Trump did, for which he gets no credit, is to kick the neoconservatives who got us into the mess in Iraq and Afghanistan to the curb. They've now joined the Democratic Party where they belong so they can socially engineer other people of whom they know nothing. Joe Biden believes in that. He doesn't believe in serving the interests of the American people. Full stop.
Well, we have an election coming up that, again, as we've been saying for the last several elections, they're so critical, but this one especially so. America's future is hanging in the balance. I got to tell you, John Holtzman, more from John after this.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-536-4436. That's 800-536-4436. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-536-4436.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. That's 800-705-6581.
Home sales are down 31% across America, and mortgage rates are on the rise. If your home is not selling, you need to call our experts right now at the Quick Cash Hotline. We have investors ready to pay you cash for your property, regardless of the condition it's in. Most of our closings can happen in about 7 days. You don't have to worry about a buyer getting approved. You don't have to worry about showing your home. One simple call right now. Just pick up the phone and call us. I'll give you the number in a second. We will negotiate with you a price to buy your home. It's that simple. If you're ready to sell your home right now, any home, any condition, and you don't want to put money into it, no problem. We'll buy it from you. Call right now. It's a free call.
800-217-6459. 800-217-6459. 800-217-6459. That's 800-217-6459. Has your heater or air conditioner busted? Appliance broken? Computer crashed? Then you need an ARW home warranty. Home system and appliance repairs and replacements can cause stress and cost you thousands of dollars per year. With an A+ BBB rating and a top-rated home warranty company on Consumer Affairs and Trustpilot, ARW Home provides superior service, featuring the industry's lowest service call fee. ARW Home has warranty plans that cover your kitchen and laundry appliances, heating and air conditioning systems, electrical and plumbing systems, and much more. Call 800-559-7562 to customize your plan. Plus, ARW has partnered with Azurian to protect your new and used tablets, laptops, TVs, and other home tech from accidental damage and wear and tear. All plans come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 800-559-7562. That's 800-559-7562.
Hey, welcome back. 19 minutes after the top of the hour. I am Bill Martinez. He's John Holtzman, author of The Last Best Hope, A History of American Realism. He's the president and managing partner of John C. Holtzman Enterprises, a prominent global political risk consulting firm. John got the 2020 election right. And John, I'm interested to have a little bit of discussion on that because I've got to say that, when you look at the numbers, as right as you got the 2020 U.S. election, some say perfectly, you have today you've got over 50% of Democrats that disagree with the results, or at least still question the results of the 2020 election. You got over 60% of independents and now over 80% of Republicans. And I think the government has been disingenuous in helping us understand what the heck happened in 2020. We're just supposed to shut up and accept the results or go to jail, I guess, huh?
No, we have every right, and in fact, a duty if we disagree to agitate. I don't. That's the American way, and so I think the results were right. I called the Senate 50-50, and that was quite a call. I mean, the other two were easy. But moving on, we've already called it 8 months ago for Donald Trump to win in 2024. Because the numbers were clear there. Everything wrong with Joe Biden isn't going to get better. He's not going to get younger. His cognitive abilities are not going to get better. Inflation is not going to come around. Everybody knows prices have gone up more than under any other president in a century. And all prices are is the accumulated rate of inflation, except for Jimmy Carter. And we all know what happened to him.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you add in inflation, his cognitive difficulties, and he's not going to magically solve the wars in Gaza or in Ukraine, and he's not going to have the Chinese think he's any stronger than he is. We knew that 8 months ago. And so my firm was the first to call it for Donald Trump. We were told at the time we were how silly we were, but nobody's laughing at us now, where Donald Trump is ahead in the polling in every single battleground state, every single one.
John, did you see the Democrats especially desperate in 2020 to win because they owed their donor base so much money because of the failure of Hillary Clinton in 2016? Did you take that into consideration at all?
We did, and I don't think you can underestimate what Hillary did to their psyche regarding Donald Trump. We call it in the office jokingly Trump derangement syndrome. We say it's a recognized malady.
Yes.
Everything they say that he is, they are. They will destroy democracy in order to save it. Literally, that's the kind of lunacy that they're saying because they're so deranged about him beating him. They can't understand how a man like Donald Trump, in their view, could beat the wonderful Hillary Clinton, who basically ran on a position, and one forgets that she was a terrible candidate, terrible objective candidate, who basically said, it's my turn to the United States in a Republican system that's anathema. And two, I have nothing in my resume, but it's my turn, and I'm not going to go to Michigan or Wisconsin where I might lose. So she didn't even show up in the states, where she should have, as Ellen said, half a life is showing up. And the other thing was she was a terrible candidate who arrogantly assumed the presidency was a monarchy. And a lot of people have made that mistake, and she paid a price. But the Democrats psychologically have never gotten over that. I think there's no about that.
John, and you bring up a critical point here that people need to get their brains around. It's hard for people to understand. And that is the Democrats really believe in what they're saying, that Donald Trump is going to be a dictator, that he's going to, ruin democracy. Well, first of all, we don't live in a democracy. So that's a misnomer. And, from President Biden on down, they are stuck in this mantra and insist that Donald Trump is going to do such damage. Well, the problem they have is that for 3.5 years of his first administration, Donald Trump did a lot of good things for our country.
In all the polling numbers, and even the New York Times Siena poll, and the New York Times, to put it mildly, is no friend of Donald Trump's. But the poll is very clear that most Americans remember the beginning of the pre-COVID Trump period, the 3.5 years before COVID, as a time where, for the first time in a generation, lower middle class and working class people began to catch up to people who were up in the upper middle class and higher for the first time in a generation. Jobs were plentiful. There was deregulation. The economy was booming. Things looked very, very good indeed. And people remember that. It wasn't that long ago. And then they remember the 3.5 years of Joe Biden. And as you say, Bill, the point is, if the best you can say at this point of your presidency, 3.5 years in, I'm not this guy who's going to ruin the world. It's like Chicken Little. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Most independent voters who determine our elections don't buy this. In fact, 2 out of 3 say it was better under Donald Trump in the New York Times poll than under Joe Biden. And that's what's killing them. Nothing's going to get better. And you can't fool people whose memory goes back to that first Trump term. And that's why I think, barring some calamity, we called it for Trump 8 months ago. I'm more secure in that call now than I was when I made it. I mean, we don't even talk about it in the office. We're all like, we got it right. You know,
I got to tell you, I'm still a little bit nervous. I think the Republican Party, especially under their new leadership, is being a lot more vigilant about, ensuring that we have a free and fair vote. It's not going to be perfect because the Democratic Party, they are, 10-degree black belts when it comes to voter fraud. They're real good.
No, and you're right. I mean, what they did was take the notion of COVID, these extenuating circumstances that we all know were extenuating, and now they're saying that's the norm. We can't have one day. We have to have months of voting without having COVID. During COVID, at least you could make an argument. I didn't buy it then, but you could make an argument for why that happened. Now there's no reason at all for this to be done. And the idea that, for instance, you need voter ID. I need ID to get on an airplane, Bill, and I travel constantly. I need an ID to check out a library book. And that doesn't make me Jim Crow laws or racism or anything about that. That means if you're nervous that I need an ID, and I live with my passport, Bill, I travel over the world. It's in my pocket constantly. I don't feel oppressed in that I have to carry it. Anyone who's worried about a form of ID, I'm suspicious of their motivations, because why don't you want me to have an ID? Because you want to mess around with the result. And that does concern me. The good news this time is I think everybody's aware of that possibility. The best disinfectant in our system is sunlight. Let's have a million eyes on it. A million eyes on it.
Without a doubt. Well, and 80% of the country believes that we should have voter ID. And you've got an increasing number of people in the country believing that we should move away from these electronic voting machines. And I say, look at maybe even in these swing states, why not run a parallel system? Let's do a hand count. Let's do a machine count and see how, see what kind of veracity we have here. Because
I think that's a great idea. Bill, that's a great idea, because for that amount of money, if I can build in certainty to our Republican system, and you're right, it's not a democracy, it's a republic. It's a republic. If I can build certainty into that system, then we can all live with the results. Why not double count it? We spend money on all kinds of nonsense in the federal government. Why not spend money on something that really, really matters?
Right, exactly. We got about a little less than 2 minutes left. Let's address China in plain sight that you wrote about.
Well, thank you. I wrote a Substack, and again, my Substack is johnholzman.substack.com. China spies differently than anybody else, and this is something we should think about. We all think of spying James Bond, the gentleman individual spy, or George Smiley. There's a group of guys in gray all sitting in a room together. The Chinese spy in the thousands, and it's agents of influence. It's not spying. It's a guy whose parents live back in China who works for a hedge fund. And he knows that according to the rules of 2017, he's got to do what the government tell him. It's not capitalism like where you can tell the government to buzz off. He can't. And so he says, China's going to do 2 points better than they do. America's going to do 2 points worse. Billions of dollars trade on that. Or the Chinese who buy up a Swiss chalet without knowing how to cook Swiss food, as an example I have, so they can look at our F-35. Or the Chinese who live here in Milan stealing IP from Prada and Gucci, redoing the designs. They become interns for these places. They go to safe houses all around the city, young people coming in and out, moving in and out. In the end, they steal about $400 billion in our technology and IP every single year. This is a huge thing, but because there are thousands of them doing it in plain sight, it's very, very hard to stop. It's easy to arrest James Bond, put a death ray in front of him and say, talk, Mr. Bond. It's harder when the kid's an intern for Prada and he's doing this all in plain sight. But if we don't figure this out, they'll steal the very innovation that makes our system superior to theirs.
And you haven't even talked about the impact they've had on our college campuses, John Holzman, but we got to leave it there. And I look forward to continuing the conversation. And again, the book is available at all usual places, right?
Amazon's the easiest.
My friends seem no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and Clear Skin, count me in. With Skyrizi Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
I'm Phil Hotzenpona, the pastor of Influence Church in Anaheim Hills, California. I have a new book out with Charisma Publishing. The title, It's Midnight in America. You know the church is asleep and slumbering in the night. We're on the doorstep of the return of Christ. Every day we see more and more signs of his return. But are you ready? My new book, It's Midnight in America, will answer the most pressing questions about biblical prophecy, the last days. The book will help you connect biblical prophecies with current events. Diminish fear, find hope, and develop an unshakable faith for the days ahead. The book is available on Amazon. Get your copy today.
Do you have Medicare and do you use a CPAP machine? This is a national healthcare alert regarding your CPAP supplies. Using a clean CPAP mask and clean supplies is important to staying healthy. The best way to make sure your CPAP equipment is clean is to get new supplies. If you have Medicare, we have great news. Medicare will pay for you to have new clean supplies every 90 days. We'll even do all the paperwork for you to make sure that there's little to no out-of-pocket cost to you. And you don't even have to leave your home. We provide free in-home delivery. So if you're a CPAP user and you have Medicare, staying healthy with new CPAP equipment is easy. Just make this free phone call right now to get started.
Sponsored by Specialty Medical. 800-254-1421. 800-254-1421. 800-254-1421. That's 800-254-1421.
Welcome back. 28 minutes before the top of the hour. Bill Martinez here. We're on standby for the former NFL QB, Jeff Kemp, who should be joining us in just a moment. But yesterday, of course, we got the news of the passing of NBA legend Bill Walton, dead at 71. The college basketball legend, NBA Hall of Famer, Bill Walton, died after a prolonged battle with cancer yesterday. He was 71 years old. He rose to fame as the starting center for the UCLA Bruins, leading the Bruins to back-to-back national championships in 72 and 73. His 44 points in the national championship game in 1973 remain a record. Again, we pray, for Bill and his family and his son Luke and those, and it's just, it was such a shock. Even though we were aware that Bill had been dealing with this, but you're thinking 71 that that he's gonna last forever. But anyway, Jeff Kemp, I can see him. He's in the room. He's ready to come on. So let's bring Jeff Kemp. Hey, Jeff, how you doing, buddy? Well, your audio is off. I need your audio. Here we go. Now,
got it.
There you go. Hey, I guess you were probably as shocked as I was that 71-year-old Bill Walton passing yesterday. We were aware that he was dealing with cancer, but I don't know. It's hard to think of, some of our sports heroes and legends that they're humanoids after all, and we all have an appointed time, don't we?
We do. I just a week ago I went back to Dartmouth College, and a 66-year-old man who'd been the quarterback there before me, and then the head coach of the team. He'd coached at Stanford and Tulane. His name is Buddy Tevens. He was kind of a a Dartmouth legend. He was running marathons and doing triathlons. He was in the best shape of any of his players at age 66. But he passed away not too long ago, and we celebrated his life. And he passed away from a bicycle car accident, which is ironic because Bill Walton was a big biker.
Right, exactly.
But I think it just, the passing of Bill Walton, and he was a classic, do it your own way, but incredible.
One of a kind, they say. Yes, exactly.
Teammate and competitor. And my friend Buddy Tevens was an amazing man, but amazing is not enough for Earth if you don't have the relationship for eternity that was designed. And I'm not commenting on either of those men. I'm just reminding myself that that appointed time is an appointed time, not for you to go poof and then you're gone. It's a transition to what God intended is life with him.
Exactly.
And life with him goes on in the soul. And boy, it just makes it so important that we receive the gift that Jesus Christ came to earth to provide. The reconciliation with the Father, the adoption as his daughter or son, and the eternal hope that makes living here in this awkward time, we're kind of in between. Jesus came and he won the battle. He rose from the dead, but the world isn't fixed, is it? Look at the Hamas attacks and the Israel war, and civilian casualties and cancer taking people, and race challenges, and movements on college campuses that seem to make no sense. People not appreciating that this imperfect country is still the greatest experiment as a democratic republic in freedom ever. And people canceling each other, families dividing, redefining what's up and what's down, and what's a boy and what's a girl, redefining marriage. All of these things are evidence that we're in between the victory Jesus achieved and the fulfillment of when he comes back.
Well, and this is the world in which we live in, where life and death, coexist. Evil and good coexist in a sense. And I think it's all what it helps us do here, even, as you hear the psalmist cry out and you think about Bill Walton and others, and here we are the day after Memorial Day, for example, where we honor those who have fallen in the service of our country, and the Gold Star families, the families, left behind to, live in this world and to try to make sense out of nonsense. But that's what it is. You get sense with God, you get nonsense with the world. And hopefully through this experience, Jeff, it helps define preference. What would you much rather live in? Would you much rather live in the environment of where you are rightfully measuring your days, as the psalmist cried out, Lord, help me measure my days so that I would make the most of those days and glorify you? I mean, for him to get to that point and cry that out, Jeff, I mean, what revelation did it take for him to understand that?
Jesus said it this way. That was David saying it that way. Jesus said, for the joy set before me, I'll endure whatever I must face. And, I think it was Paul who said, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. Jesus had the long term in view. He had the macro picture. And so did the psalmist, who would speak about his tough conditions of the moment, but then he would always go back and finish his psalms with, but God has done it in the past and God will do it in the future. My faith is in God. Amen. He's good. C.S. Lewis had something classic. He said, if you aim for heaven, then you have earth, and enjoying earth in the way it was intended thrown in. But if you aim for earth, you don't enjoy earth because it dissatisfies.
Exactly.
And you miss heaven, which is what the true destination of life was all about. So I know your topic today, you'd brought up, what's Satan hoping we don't pay attention to?
Exactly.
And what's he perfectly happy that we are fooled and deceived in our believing?
Yes.
And I think that is indicative of what we've been talking about, that there's a war, it's a spiritual one, between God, who's good and doesn't have any evil in him, and his enemy, Satan, who is evil and wants to create destruction through deception and damage, and of course,
Well, that's all he knows, Jeff. See, this is what Jesus kept saying. He's the father of lies. His DNA
His
can't
line.
help him do anything other than what he does, and that is it's evil, it's death, it's all these things that you don't want, that you're absolutely miserable with. And so you have that, and then you have just the opposite in God, whose character and everything that he represents that promotes life and abundance and peace and love, right?
Right. The Bible is the plumb line. It's truth. It's reality. The philosophies of the world are upside down and deceptive. We know that science, when it's accurate, ends up agreeing with God.
Exactly.
But human philosophy, the more it moves into human pride, human independence, human creativity. Take a look at art these days, which is so kind of evil and dark and sad, because it's kind of jettisoned the belief in a higher power, a creator, a moral meaning to the world. God's ways are foolish to the world, but their wisdom and brings salvation to those that are being saved. And it's the opposite way. The world looks at God's ways and says, oh, those are dumb. But the reason that is because Satan is the prince of this world. He has a power and a dominion temporarily.
Yes.
That is not as strong as God's. God is still orchestrating and can overrule, and all things will work together for good for those who are called according to God's purpose and love him. Even in the midst of this time when Satan's pulling a lot of moves. You can read the book Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, where
great book.
talks about the demons kind of strategizing how to get us off track, to focus only on the here and now, only on ourselves, only on our rights, only on criticizing others, seeking from God little temporary benefits of comfort for here and now, but ignoring that he made us for eternity. We need to pay attention to the real discussion between God's truth and the enemy's lies, and not panic over it, because God is way, way, way stronger, stronger than the demons and Satan and his armies.
His ways much higher than our ways, Jeff Kemp. Jeff, how can people be in touch with you? 10 seconds left.
Come to jeffkempteam.com, jeffkempteam.com.
Thank you, Jeff. Take care. God bless, my friend. You got it.
My name is DeMar Hamlin. I play for the Buffalo Bills, and I play safety. CPR saved my life. I've teamed up with the American Heart Association as a national ambassador to help create a nation of lifesavers, turning bystanders into lifesavers through CPR education and access to AEDs. Nearly 3 out of 4 cardiac arrests that don't happen in hospitals happen in homes. Join me to ensure everyone has the chance to live longer, healthier lives. Visit heart.org/nation.
Is switching your wireless service to Total by Verizon easy? Now you can get 50% off any unlimited data phone plan. That's one line for only $25 a month, and you keep the phone you love. Hurry, this is a limited time offer. So find a store or switch suavemente at totalbyverizon.com. Offer ends July 31st, 2024. Promo subject to cancellation after 12 months. Available exclusively online and in Total by Verizon stores. Requires a compatible unlocked device and SIM. See totalbyverizon.com for device compatibility and additional details. Taxes and fees may apply.
Hey there, you and aisle 2. I see you by the fiber and laxatives. You still using those to manage your constipation with belly pain? If your symptoms keep coming back, you may have irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. So you may need more than over-the-counter treatments to manage it. Ask your doctor about how Linzess can help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
President Biden recently released a massive $6 trillion budget, the largest budget in U.S. history. And guess who pays the bill? That's right, you, the American taxpayer. American citizens and business owners will
Sam,
be
Bill
paying more
Martinez here. Sorry to
taxes.
bother you.
That's a fact.
Yeah, I was trying to
and
get
if
a
you
hold-
owe back taxes, they will be coming after you to collect payments. In fact, President Biden also hired thousands more IRS agents to go after you. If you got a letter from the IRS and you know you owe back taxes or you haven't filed in years, don't put your head in the sand. Call us today. We've saved our customers millions of tax dollars. One quick, free phone call will show you how we can reduce your past tax bill and save you thousands. Guaranteed, or you pay nothing. Call now.
800-932-1597. 800-932-1597. That's 800-932-1597. Paid for by the Tax Helpline.
Have you heard about Vine to Bar chocolate? It's the winemaker's chocolate, the world's first chocolate made with well-vined Chardonnay marc from the beautiful coastal vineyards of North America. Gently pressed grapes are harvested after juicing, dried and finely milled and carefully blended into the finest dark chocolate. The Chardonnay marc contains highly beneficial grape nutrients, flavanols, and has a natural sweetness that flavors the luscious dark chocolate. Mouth-watering, flavorful, delectable dark chocolate goodness with Chardonnay sweetness and beneficial nutrients. And it's alcohol-free, too. It's Vine to Bar chocolate. Order some today at vinetobar.com. That's VINETOBAR.com. Cold shipped to your door, it's Vine to Bar. Vine to Bar chocolate. Visit us at vinetobar.com.
Hey, just about 14 minutes before the top of the hour. Great to have you with us. I'm Bill Martinez. Keenan Spivak's going to join us in just a moment as we discuss the left panicking over the abysmal polling numbers of President Biden. But are voters realizing that it's more than Biden? It's the entire Democratic Party. Remember, the Democratic Party has supported these destructive policies that is decimating the middle class. The only thing left for Democrats to fear is to keep Trump from winning. But remember, under Trump, America was winning until Joe Biden made America losers once again. Kenan is the contributor to the American Mind magazine of the Claremont Institute and a successful businessman. Kenan, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I hope I'm saying your name correctly, sir.
It's Kenan Spivak. My parents left me with a difficult to pronounce name.
But it's okay. I was looking at it and I said, I hope I don't destroy it for the sake of your parents and your family. I respect names. I know sometimes people will refer to me as Martinez and I go, oh my goodness, my mother would, correct you really quickly, but it's okay. So out of, familial respect, so Kenan Spivak.
Right. You know what it is? It's like Ken out, Ken in.
Okay, Ken in. I love it. Kenan Spivak. All right, let's talk about, Kenan, the what's going on with the Democratic Party. They're in a full-blown panic because how can they support Bidenomics, Bidenflation, all this negativity? The polling numbers, I mean, they're quite telling. They're inarguable, aren't they?
In most ways they are. So let me try to break this down for a moment, if I may.
Yes, please.
First of all, I agree with you, and we can come back to it. They have two separate problems. One is Biden, the candidate, who's cognitively and physically impaired. And the other are Democrat policies, which have really nothing to do with Joe Biden. He's just following what he's told to do, and they would exist no matter who the president was. Right. But on the poll results, there are some interesting and disquieting results. If you go back to the last election, Biden is doing less well in all of the swing states, in every demographic group. But since the beginning of the year, since the Democrats have really opened their campaign, Biden has narrowed the differences among a lot of key demographic groups, under 35-year-olds, younger people, Blacks and Hispanics. In every one of those instances, he has narrowed Trump's lead. And we've yet to see the results of the criminal farce, some may call it criminal trial, I call it farce, in New York. If he's convicted, it still could make a difference among independents and could narrow Trump's lead further. So I'm not yet completely confident. Well, I'm not confident that Trump is going to win, I'm confident that Trump should win.
Yes. Well, when you look at the campaigns, thousands of people showing up, I think it's rather bold that Trump is going where Republicans wouldn't go before. I mean, he goes to a libertarian convention and says, "Hey, you should vote for me." Why do you want to just be 3% of the electorate when you could be a bigger part of what's happening and maybe even have a seat at the table? But according to the boos in the crowd, they just want nothing to do with Donald Trump, I guess.
Donald Trump is a showman. But last time also we had all the enthusiasm. Biden couldn't get more than a couple of hundred people at the biggest of the Biden events, and Trump had tens of thousands of people. Again, I don't want to get overconfident. I also don't want people to stay home and not vote because they're overconfident.
Exactly.
Large crowds do mean enthusiasm. They don't always translate into votes, and as we saw last time, they don't always translate into a victory. Biden has never been able to get that kind of enthusiastic response. But the Democrats have a well-oiled machine. They have the mainstream media, they have academia. They've been, I think, illegally and unconstitutionally using organs of the federal government to get out the Democrat vote. Let's not underestimate the perfidy of the Democrat Party and their willingness to do what they have to do.
Yeah. Well, that was clear. I mean, here it is in 2020. Donald Trump, generates an additional 10 million more votes than he had in 2016, and he still loses. I mean, that's almost unheard of, Kenan.
Absolutely. And let's put aside these arguments about fraud. Let's just accept he lost because he lost.
Right.
Still, he lost because the Democrat media machine, the Democrat control of government, suppressed stories, suppressed information that the public needed to be able to vote. Now, that's not fraud and that's legal, but it's not right. It's not what should be done in a campaign. And they're going to do it again this year. The mainstream media isn't going to honestly cover Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. And that's why, again, I'm not overly confident in the outcome. I look at what Biden's doing, and listen, he's doing the right thing. He's out campaigning the Black community to try to shore up support. He's doing it by telling lies about himself and about Donald Trump. He's doing it by ignoring Donald Trump's immense contribution to the Black community during his tenure as president. But that's what campaigns are all about. They're not supposed to be about lawfare, and these unprecedented criminal attacks on Donald Trump are going to affect the election outcome. So I would say to those who don't want to see Joe Biden in for another 4 years, include me in that group. Those who love Donald Trump or those who simply prefer Donald Trump, they're going to need to get out there and they're going to need to vote, and they're going to need not to become overconfident because of some polls.
Kenan, what I'm concerned about is that regardless of the outcome, you're going to have 50% of the country on its head. There's going to be 50% of the country unhappy with the results. And this is why it's so important for the American people, whatever the numbers are, that they feel, okay, we got a fair vote, as best we can tell. I mean, the Democrats have always complained. I think somebody had said that at one point, just about every Republican president has been impeached by the Democratic Party. They're just so beyond them to think that anybody would vote for a Republican president, that they have to affect and do damage. And I think, what a waste. I mean, for 3.5 years of Donald Trump's administration, Kenan, I mean, if there had been any kind of support from the Democratic Party and interest in America and Americans, I mean, we'd have been doing, 4% GDP. We could have been doing a lot better, even though I think for 3.5 years of the Trump administration, we started to win again and there was some positive movement. But the Democrats, they just can't have it because for some reason their own paradigm and their own psychology seems to be antithetical to the Constitution of the United States.
So let me try to unpack this because I think you've said a lot of things I agree with. Donald Trump is his own worst enemy. I mean, let's face facts. He is a narcissist. He's a blowhard. He goes after little people that should be beneath his dignity to do that. And he turns people off.
Right.
And it doesn't help him. And it helps those who oppose him, who then exaggerate his flaws and pretend that they include things that Donald Trump never did.
Right.
I wish Donald Trump was more of a role model for Americans' children and not the way he is. Still, it's the Democrats time and time again who, as you say, ignore the law, ignore ethics, lie, create things like the Steele dossier that were completely untruthful, impeach. You know, the Democrats, and your point goes to this, they've been saying for 20 years that every Republican elected was illegitimate. They challenged election results in every Congress. All the things they say the Republicans did last time, maybe other than January 6th, they've also done, and they've done far more than the Republicans. I do wish our country could come together. When I was growing up, there were disagreements, but the parties weren't as far apart as they are now. There was more agreement on goals and maybe disagreement on how to get there.
Exactly.
What we're seeing today with the progressives domination of the Biden administration is a difference in goals, not just a difference in means. And until we can bridge that, things aren't going to get better anytime soon.
Well, and the thing is, and the Democrats are not about to be transparent, even though they claim, you always know when somebody's not being transparent. It was when they tell you, we're going to be the most transparent, administration in the history of presidencies. And it's like, why did you say that? Because I know that now you're not going to be. And, even Barack Obama said that they were scandal free. It was like, wait, how did you come up with this? With that, for all the scandals that the Obama administration had over, 2 terms of office. But, that's their story. They're going to stick to it, right?
Yeah, it's like in business, and as you pointed out, I'm a business person. When someone says, well, let me be honest with you, you mean you haven't been honest until now?
Exactly.
No, it's exactly that. The Democrats are good at pretending to be righteous and moral, and they're not.
Yes. Yeah, sadly, that is the case. And most of us, Ken, we want to be fair-minded. We want to think the person on the other side of the table is reasonable and fair-minded. But boy, this is a different art form altogether when you're talking about democratic policies and politics, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you pointed out earlier. This is not your father or your grandfather's Democratic Party. That's left the building and the tent a long time ago. And this is why there's been such an exodus. So be careful if you're standing at the doorway. Kenan Spivak, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you.
Today, more than ever, our pets are struggling with many of the same health challenges that their owners are struggling with. Medications can sometimes help, but do not address the root cause and can create unwanted side effects. Pet Regen by Go Natural Pets is a revolutionary regenerative plant-based supplement for pets that helps the body heal itself naturally. The results have been extraordinary. The unique ingredients in Pet Regen have countless scientific studies that show their ability to facilitate greater repair, renewal, and regeneration. A few scoops a day can make all the difference. It's safe, effective, affordable, and it works. We guarantee it or your money back. Created by nature, proven by science, loved by pets. That's PetRegen.com, PetRegen.com, or call 737-303-4480. That's 737-303-4480.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
BBS Radio TV. If it's not mainstream, it's on BBS Radio TV. A place for answers.
We're back with you, America. Thank you so much for joining us. And coming up in this next hour, an incredible story to open up the hour with his Jack Werfel, 91-year-old survivor of the Holocaust. Of course, he says he's alarmed at rising anti-Jewish demonstrations on U.S. college campuses. As Israel marked Holocaust Memorial Day earlier this month, May 5th and 6th, he shares how he hid his Jewish roots to escape being sent to a concentration camp during World War II. His mother and father, not so fortunate, and they ended up dying in these concentration camps. He says he hopes his story will help young people in America understand about the horrors of the Holocaust that is real and the persecution of Jews. He said that he lived with his grandparents, and you'll hear from his own lips and see in a moment his story. It is so touching and compelling that his father was wise enough to get him out of the fray. They were growing up at the time in Vienna, in Austria. And so we had a little talk about that, because I told them when I visited Vienna, you could see that the hills definitely are alive with the sound of music. They're just so inspirational when you look at the hills there in Vienna, and you know that I think it's Rodgers and Hammerstein, if I remember correctly. They had to be there and just and listen to the music that was coming out of those hills. It's just it's so majestic. But anyway, but for Jack, here he was as a young man. His father sends him to the grandparents' house, and they were able to survive. And as fortune would work out, he and his brother, the survivors of their family, end up in America. And he said from day one, he was just so elated and uplifted in realizing that he was in the home that, where freedom was the shining light. And what an encouragement it was, for he and his brother coming to America. And he enjoyed every minute of it. And what a testimony that I think that our young people should hear and understand the horrors of Holocaust, what it did to devastate his family, and the difference that America made for this Jewish man and his brother. And he's 91 years old, a survivor of the Holocaust, and he lives to tell the story. And we're going to finish up the hour with Eric Holman. He's back with us. I spoke with him a couple of years ago. What an incredible background Eric has. He is a former United States Air Force combat controller. I mean, we're talking a tier 1 operator. This is the elite of the elites in the military. 2 times Bronze Star Medal recipient. He did run for Congress, unsuccessful in his bid for it. But I'll tell you, Eric, when you hear him, you realize that he is such a quality individual. And his organization is doing a lot about, dealing with, with vets who come home with PTSD and other ailments, and they need support. And we're going to talk about military suicide rates are at an all-time high, So what's going on that's causing these rates to escalate? and they have ideas, and they're working these ideas, working the problem, as they would say, in order to solve this problem and make a difference among these military vets who are coming home after combat and have so much to deal with it. Talks about the reasons for the Air Force increases are not fully understood, coming after years of effort by all the military service to encounter a problem that seems to defy a solution here. And also, we're going to talk about Operation Soul Rescue that is saving lives of America's elite warriors. So it's going to be fascinating to have Eric, on the show and back with us, to talk about this because of his vast military experience and what he's doing post military life, which you probably will realize that it really hasn't ended. It just continues. So stay with us.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. That's 800-705-6581.
6 minutes after the top of the hour, Bill Martinez here. Great to have you with us. Also great to have our next guest. He's a 91-year-old Holocaust survivor who's alarmed at the escalating anti-Semitism on U.S. college campuses today. He's the author of the book, My Two Lives. Is it Jochen? Is officially Jochen? Am I saying that right?
Yes, Jochen.
Okay, Jochen, but we say Jack here. So it's Jochen and friends, or at least in quotes, Jack Werfel. And it was written, this book, with in conjunction with Bill Tomalonis and Diane Lonsdale, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What a great team, huh, to make this work?
Absolutely.
Well, Jack, it's an honor to have you here as a 91-year-old Holocaust survivor who knows the truth, the whole truth and nothing but. World War II, you're 7 years old, and you're seeing this, come upon you. It had to be hard to understand at 7 what the heck was going on, right?
Yes.
Well, tell us about that, if you can.
Yeah, I'm originally with my parents from Austria. We lived in Butenstein, which is right outside of Vienna. Mm-hmm. And my father worked for the Austrian government, for Mr. Schuschnigg, who was the president of Austria at that time.
Right.
And we had several good years living there with my parents that I can remember at least a couple of years because I was so young, but I do remember some of it. And when my father found out through the government that Hitler was coming into Austria, which was the Anschluss, they called it. My father decided that it would be best for my brother and myself to leave Austria and to go back to our grandparents who lived in Berlin.
Okay.
And strangely enough, Berlin was not quite as dangerous for Jews as it was in Austria at that time.
Yeah.
So my father had a pretty good idea about that. And so we went to Berlin to live with our grandparents. And when Hitler finally moved into Austria, we were gone already. And my mother went for a couple of years to the Czechoslovakia, mm-hmm. to the city of Prague, which seemed to be very safe for her at that time. Because my mother was Jewish, my father was Catholic. And when they got married, my father was thrown out of the Catholic Church because he was not supposed to marry a Jewish woman.
Outside, that's going to, I mean, it's always something, right, with the religions.
Absolutely, always, yeah.
So your mother's in Prague. Where's your father at this point? Is he remaining in Austria?
Yeah, my father remained in Austria with the president of Austria. And when Hitler walked in, both of them were arrested together. And they were put on a train, taken to a concentration camp called Sachsenhausen, which is right north of Berlin.
Oh, wow. So, and so what happened to him then, Jack?
Well, he stayed in Sachsenhausen for quite a few years.
Was he treated different because he wasn't Jewish, that he was a Catholic, or?
Well, he was a political prisoner.
Okay.
Yes, and he had to work. So he was, I guess, at that point, not immediately at the attention of death, but had to work. And he worked in an aircraft factory for the Germans, building airplanes.
Yeah, for the war effort there, right? Yeah.
And every morning they were marched out of the camp to the factory, and he would work there. And then in the evenings, they would be all walked back with the SS troops and back into the camp, into the concentration camp.
Now, when here you are, you're a little boy, and when did your father start telling you these stories that you're recalling right now?
Well, yeah, it's actually surprising. When I finally wrote the book 2.5 years ago, the book My Two Lives, I was surprised that I remembered as much as I did, because for many, many years when I lived in this country, I had been in this country since I was 17 years old.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's when I came to the United States. And I was surprised that I remembered that much. And the two people that you mentioned before that helped me to write the book, they were with me, and they would ask me questions, and I would answer their questions. I was surprised because after all those years, I had really wanted to forget all those years from the Nazi regime, and I lost my entire family there.
Oh, wow.
And so I lived by myself in the United States, and it was a great, great country to live in. And I was the happiest person in the world when I arrived in New York, believe me.
Boy, I'll tell you, from one end to the other, I mean, here it is, your family is being oppressed, and you say you've lost your family, your mom, your dad, and your brother?
I lost everybody except my brother. My brother and I were the only people who survived the Holocaust. All my parents, my grandparents, my uncles, my nieces, my aunts, everybody was lost during the Holocaust. They were all taken to various concentration camps and killed there.
Yeah. Well, this is so real for you. And still, you've been carrying this for 91 years of your life, Jack. And it's got to be painful when you see ignorance on display, especially on these university campuses of these young kids that have not, been taught something, as horrific as the experience that you endured.
Oh, Bill, you're so right. I was really very, very disappointed that this would happen in this country. I really didn't believe that it would. I knew that there may have been some problems with Black people in this country when I first arrived back in 1950. But, when all of this happened at the universities and at the schools, I was just absolutely amazed. I couldn't believe it because in a way, it kind of reminded me, I'm kind of afraid that what's happening now at the universities and at the schools is different, but yet it's the same as what happened during the Holocaust, during Hitler's days, you know. It started there too, also with a few people, you know, who eventually became the Hitler's followers and all of that. But it's just, to me, unbelievable that this could happen in this country, because I always felt the United States, with all its freedom and laws and wonderful, you know, ways of living, that this could happen here. I just didn't believe that. So I'm very disappointed, and I'm also very disappointed in the instructors, the teachers.
Yes.
Of these schools, and
there's clearly a breakdown in leadership. There's no doubt about it. But we're talking with Jack Werfel, his new book, My Two Lies. 91-year-old Holocaust survivor who's alarmed at the escalating anti-Semitism on U.S. college campuses.
If you're 65 or
Stay
older
with us.
and Medicare is your
Jack
main
on the
source
other
of
side right
insurance, pay close attention right now and listen for details on how you may save thousands of dollars on your healthcare costs. Did you know that Medicare can pay for things like dental visits, home delivery of drugs, even a gym membership? Call us right now and learn how to unlock all your Medicare benefits. Medicare and supplemental plans that we provide can even offer you drug coverage with zero copays and pay for transportation to your doctors. Medicare plans can offer you wonderful money-saving benefits, but you've got to call all your earned Medicare benefits, paid for by Senior Choice Plans. 800-796-3954. 800-796-3954. That's 800-796-3954.
Do you have Medicare and do you use a CPAP machine? This is a national healthcare alert regarding your CPAP supplies. Using a clean CPAP mask and clean supplies is important to staying healthy. The best way to make sure your CPAP equipment is clean is to get new supplies. If you have Medicare, we have great news. Medicare will pay for you to have new clean supplies every 90 days. We'll even do all the paperwork for you to make sure that there's little to no out-of-pocket cost to you. And you don't even have to leave your home. We provide free in-home delivery. So if you're a CPAP user and you have Medicare, staying healthy with new CPAP equipment is easy. Just make this free phone call right now to get started.
Sponsored by Specialty Medical. 800-254-1421. 800-254-1421. 800-254-1421. That's 800-254-1421.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-536-4436. That's 800-536-4436. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-536-4436.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. That's 800-705-6581.
Welcome back, America. 19 minutes after the top of the hour, Jack Werfel is our guest. He is the 91-year-old Holocaust survivor. Yes, you heard that right. Who is the author of the book, My Two Lives. You mentioned Vienna, and it was one of my favorite trips, and I enjoyed it tremendously. Of course, for you, it must have been a heartbreak. I mean, at 7 years old, and to be uprooted, and at the age of 17, you came to the United States. And then let's pick it up from there, Jack.
I lived all those years during the Hitler time. I lived in hiding with a German lady who hid us, my brother and myself.
Yeah, because you had to deny your heritage, right, in order to hide, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
First of all, when my parents brought me to Berlin, they had us baptized in the Catholic Church as being Catholic.
Okay.
Because, when your mother is Jewish, you're considered Jewish. So that was already one help, a big help for Catholic, because if anyone would ever ask us, who are you and what is your religion and where you're from, we could always say we're Catholic. And that helped us a lot.
Right.
And then when we went to this summer, my grandfather in Berlin, when things got worse in Berlin, I had a wonderful time living, by the way, with my grandparents for the first 2 or 3 years in Berlin.
Right.
But then it got very hot there, and my grandfather wanted to make sure that we would stay alive, and he sent us to a summer camp in northern Germany called Dangast. And it's a little village of fishermen and farms and so on. And we lived there for many years. And the lady who ran the summer camp, Bill, I can only say she became my second mother.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's good.
After I had lost my mother, killed in Auschwitz, I lived with her until I was 17 years old, from my later years of my 6th birthday, And I lived with her for all those years, and she really became like our second mother. And she knew that Peter and I were born of a Jewish woman, and that we considered Jewish.
Right.
And she protected us. And
Jack, how did you hear about your mother's death in Auschwitz?
Yeah, that's another story. My teacher in Dangast, in this little village, we reported at 8 o'clock in the morning to school. We had school until 1 o'clock, and then my teacher would leave, would put on his black SS uniform, get a motorcycle, and drive to the SS meetings. He was an SS officer, and he was also a good friend of my, so to speak, second mother, the lady who ran this summer camp.
Right.
So both of them knew who we were. And this gentleman, who was an SS officer, protected my brother and me, as well as this lady did, who ran the summer camp. So we were extremely lucky there.
Yes.
And and we lived.
Did you just feel like the hand of God was protecting you, Jack, in all this?
That who?
Did you feel like the hand of God was protecting you throughout all this?
Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah. But probably more so as you got older and started looking back. Sometimes we don't realize when we're in the midst of it, but maybe you look back and you see a definitive pattern of God Almighty in your life.
Well, of course, I always believed in God. Though I was not raised Catholic. I was not raised Jewish. So I really had no particular religion, but I did believe very strongly in God.
Right.
And I thank God every day, every morning when I woke up. We're still here and we're still alive, because the SS and the Gestapo people came to my second mother's house where we lived, to the camp, several times and questioned her, who are these boys?
Oh, really? Wow.
He would
So,
always talk to them and always tell them that she adopted us and she was very clever, talked her way out of it, and then they would leave and we were still there. We were so lucky, so very, very lucky, you know?
yeah. Well, that's great. Well, your book, My Two Lives, why the title, My Two Lives? Explain to our audience so that they understand when they're looking for your book, they can appreciate the title.
Yeah. Well, I call my first life the life in Europe,
Mhm.
the life when I was younger and living during the Holocaust period in Germany, and even after the war was over, we still lived there for 2 or 3 years until we finally were lucky enough to come to the United States. So
Yeah, how did that happen, Jack? How did you come to the United? You're 17, you and your brother, and both of you came at the same time to America?
yeah, there was an organization called the United States Committee for Care of European Children.
Okay.
And somehow the US Army in southern Germany called us one day and said, we found a story about your father, that he worked with Mr. Schuschnigg, the Austrian government, and tried to keep Austria as an independent country, which of course Hitler didn't let him.
Yeah.
It just was just an amazing story that we stayed alive all those years, you know.
Mhm. And so, from the age of 17, what was your adult life here in America like, Jack? What did you end up doing?
Well, I tell you, the life was wonderful,
Mhm.
wonderful. I had the best life in the world. As terrible as my first years were in Europe during the Third Reich, Hitler's time, my time in this country was absolutely wonderful. When I arrived in New York, I tell you, I was the happiest person in the whole world, you know? I saw millions of cars. I saw skyscrapers. I saw all these wonderful things, you know? And knowing what a beautiful country it was and the laws and the regulations in this country and the freedom people had here.
Exactly.
It was just so wonderful, you know?
Well, Jack, we've got to wrap things up here. We've got only a minute left here.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to these kids in these universities that do not understand the Holocaust? What do you want to say to them?
Well, at this point, all I can say is it's a shame that they didn't have the education in school, that they weren't taught, because this is one of the most important things of the history of mankind.
Exactly.
There were 7 million Jews, 6 or 7 million Jews that were killed during those few years of Hitler's time, you know? And when I wrote this book because my daughter, Dana, asked me to write that book so that my family would always know where we were from, what happened to our family, how did we get to the United States, how did I make a success of my life in the United States, and so on. And I had 3 children here, 3 children. After I married Sonia, who was originally from El Salvador.
Oh, wow.
As a matter of fact, she was Miss El Salvador at one time.
Oh, wow. You lucky dude, you.
Yeah, she was a beautiful woman, and we were married for 63 years, you know?
Oh, wow. Mazel tov, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jack, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for your story, for the book, My Two Lives, available at all the usual places, right?
Yes.
Jack Werfel, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk, and I hope that my book will be read by a lot of the young people in this country. I hope so.
Yes.
I think there were over 1,000 books out already, and I just hope that kids read the book and finally begin to believe and learn what really happened, you know, and what could happen now. The danger of this is
exactly.
You know, yeah.
Well, history has a way of repeating itself because it says that we don't learn the lessons from history.
Yeah, it's so
time
true.
around, right?
It's so true, yes. Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, Well, Jack, be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and...
Okay, that's fine. Why don't we go ahead and leave it at 11 and I'll just bring on...
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Requires in-store activation. Device offer ends 6/9/24. Taxes and fees apply.
Yeah. In a single moment, everything can change. When a player's sudden cardiac event brought a national football game to a halt, it shone a spotlight on the importance of CPR readiness. Now, with youth sports in full swing, the American Heart Association is rallying parents and coaches to be ready in an emergency. To be ready, learn hands-only CPR. It's a skill anyone can learn in minutes. Visit heart.org/hands-only-CPR and become a lifesaver today.
I'm Phil Hotzenpella, the pastor of Influence Church in Anaheim Hills, California. I have a new book out with Charisma Publishing. The title, It's Midnight in America. You know the church is asleep and slumbering in the night. We're on the doorstep of the return of Christ. Every day we see more and more signs of his return. But are you ready? My new book, It's Midnight in America, will answer the most pressing questions about biblical prophecy, the last days. The book will help you connect biblical prophecies with current events, diminish fear, find hope, and develop an unshakable faith for the days ahead. The book is available on Amazon. Get your copy today.
Home sales are down 31% across America, and mortgage rates are on the rise. If your home is not selling, you need to call our experts right now at the Quick Cash Hotline. We have investors ready to pay you cash for your property, regardless of the condition it's in. Most of our closings can happen in about 7 days. You don't have to worry about a buyer getting approved. You don't have to worry about showing your home. One simple call right now. Just pick up the phone and call us. I'll give you the number in a second. We will negotiate with you a price to buy your home. It's that simple. If you're ready to sell your home right now, any home, any condition, and you don't want to put money into it, no problem. We'll buy it from you. Call right now. It's a free call.
800-217-6459. 800-217-6459. 800-217-6459. That's 800-217-6459.
Hey, welcome back. Bill Martinez here. 28 minutes before the top of the hour. Eric Holman is going to be joining us in just a moment. Eric is one of those American elite warriors. He's the former United States Air Force combat controller, two-time Bronze Star Medal recipient, and I want to bring him on the show now. Eric, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's been, I think a year and a half since you and I last spoke. And here we are, Eric, realizing that military suicide rates are at an all-time high. Now, is this all across the board in every branch of service?
I believe so. I think it hasn't, I mean, for as much as we've brought light to it, I don't think it's really been mitigated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something's not changing for sure.
Well, the numbers, it seemed like forever, and they've been a bit dynamic. It varied anywhere from, 18 to 25 a day, regardless of what the numbers. Any former military committing suicide is an immeasurable heartbreak. What can you say?
Yeah, it's for me, the saddest part is that, some of these men and women go to war and they survive war, especially after 22 years of fighting. They come home and they take their own lives, right? It's an epidemic. That's the real epidemic.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're realizing, as I guess science and studying this is that PTSD is real, and it's probably been one of the hidden enemies that up to now we've not been very effective in dealing with it, right?
I believe so. I think the science definitely, I mean, it's way better than it was in our previous wars, right? They understand that the effects of war and being away and maybe operating at such a high tempo when you come back to civilian life in this world, it's the loss of purpose, the loss of your friends, your teammates, in that structure, especially right now that our country's, we live in strange times right now, to say the least.
Mhm. Are we expecting too much of our military personnel? I mean, when you think about it, Eric, I mean, what are we still about less than 1% of our population is ever in a combat zone. And to be in a combat zone, I believe that though that small percentage of people ought to be treated with such a unique perspective and a special perspective. Not that they would ask for it, but I think that we have to be more mindful that when you set up soldiers in this kind of paradigm, as you said, things are set. You could be in combat or in a situation for, 20 years if it's a career situation plus, and to have this kind of pressure on you and to be in a combat zone, several times. I don't know what in the length of a 20-year career, how often could you find yourself in a combat zone?
Yeah, I believe you are right. I think some of these men and women that have served in combat do deserve a little bit more, right?
Right.
But I think these people were chosen. I think these people were a patriot to the very core, and what makes America great. It's home of the brave, right? So
Right.
these individuals went to defend their country, and they were under orders. And now when they come home, they see that everything they were fighting for. I mean, I've seen the place, mainly Afghanistan, the place that I've fought. It's, you look how destroyed those countries are. You look at what humans can do to other humans, and then you come
Yes.
here, and then you look at what's going on with some of these colleges that are trying to stop a Memorial Day parade, right? It's truly they don't. We've gotten away from what made this country great, and now you have these people trying to stop a parade because it has Americans flags with
Right.
individual proud Americans walking on the streets. So I think America's lost its way a little bit for sure.
Well, when you have these young kids that don't have skin in the game, Eric, you and I, we've served our country, and our sentiment is, I wish everybody would have this experience because it's not just because it's you owe it to the country as much as you owe it to yourself. I mean, it's the dues I believe that we all should pay for freedom. We can't just expect our neighbor to pay for it, and subordinate our interests to our founding fathers. And what are we up to now? Over 2 million casualties in total. Might be higher than that, might be 3 million now of total casualties that paid the ultimate price for our freedom. So, what is that? I mean, we just say, oh, well, they did it for us, and now we get a free ride, and I think that's an attitude thing, and it's a problem. But the other part is that, legitimately, you and I, because we served, we realize what, in a sense, what a gift it is. Because, like you said, these men and these women, particularly after 9/11, we saw this we read in the history books. We weren't around during World War II, but when the nation was called to arms, people went to the draft centers. They went to the induction centers and volunteered to defend this country. And there's, yes, there are some people that are just wired. They're sheepdogs. They're wired sheepdogs, and they can't help but be sheepdogs. And God bless them because we need them. But just because you're not a sheepdog doesn't mean that you're not, that you can't participate and be part of the solution, does it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you're an American, right? And the military, I think, is one of those jobs that they can discriminate who they let in because the military's job is to defend itself, to go to war, when politicians just can't get the deal done, right? So
Right.
I think regardless of how you feel, I mean, you should be supporting because there are American lives over there, wherever they're sent. So Americans should support and should, be thankful because of the people that have gone before us and have sacrificed their lives, we have these great liberties that we have in America. America's not perfect for sure, but I mean,
Right.
we're way better than any other country out there for sure, you know, in my opinion.
Eric, what's your evaluation of the military right now? I mean, I get concerned when I hear a four-star general talking about how proud he is of the military, that it's the most diverse military in the history of our country. I've never heard of militaries winning because of diversity. They win because of military strength and strategy and preparedness. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah, you know, just from I have teammates that are still in, you know, and it's pretty sad. I think the some of the leaders that we do have run in the military have lost what is important. You know, wars are not won by how many different people you have in your ranks. It's the might, right? Strength, you know, peace through strength. And I mean, they're trying to do everything they can to get plus up our numbers. And from what I understand, it's recruiting is at all-time low at all branches. It's not just one. And as far as I know, even when I served, you know, when I left the teams 10 years ago now, I mean, I didn't care who was fighting next to me. I didn't care about the color of your skin or what you looked like or what neighborhood or you had stars and stripes on your right shoulder and you were shooting the same way, you know, and
Right.
that's all that mattered. So I don't know why, you know, this I don't know why that's an important stat now. You know, I think the American military has always been pretty diverse. So
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, in that sense, the diversity has been built into it. But like you said, is that can you count on the guy next to you to have as much interest for your safety as you do his, and that you're watching each other's six, because it's about being unified to a common purpose, and the common purpose is to defend freedom, I would think.
that's right. Yeah, you're fighting for each other, you know, and what you believe in, the values and everything else that like I said, makes America great.
Right. Yeah, I'm not hearing that the sensitivity to one's personal pronoun selection makes America great. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to mock it. I'm just thinking that, you know, what you said earlier, is that we've lost our way, and this requires leadership to step forward to say, you know, okay, come on, we've made a wrong turn here. We need to focus on the key principles that really makes our military great, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely right. That's what, like I said, strength through peace, you know, peace through strength. So yeah, absolutely.
Right, exactly. Based on a common goal and military preparedness. Eric Holman is with us. Our conversation with him will continue on the other side. Stay with us.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. 800-705-6581. That's 800-705-6581. Has your heater or air conditioner busted? Appliance broken? Computer crashed? Then you need an ARW home warranty. Home system and appliance repairs and replacements can cause stress and cost you thousands of dollars per year. With an A-plus BBB rating and a top-rated home warranty company on Consumer Affairs and Trustpilot, ARW Home provides superior service, featuring the industry's lowest service call fee. ARW Home has warranty plans that cover your kitchen and laundry appliances, heating and air conditioning systems, electrical and plumbing systems, and much more. Call 800-559-7562 to customize your plan. Plus, ARW has partnered with Azurian to protect your new and used tablets, laptops, TVs, and other home tech from accidental damage and wear and tear. All plans come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 800-559-7562. That's 800-559-7562.
Have you heard about Vine to Bar chocolate? It's the winemaker's chocolate, the world's first chocolate made with well-vined Chardonnay marc from the beautiful coastal vineyards of North America. Gently pressed grapes are harvested after juicing, dried and finely milled and carefully blended into the finest dark chocolate. The Chardonnay marc contains highly beneficial grape nutrients, flavonols, and has a natural sweetness that flavors the luscious dark chocolate. Mouth-watering, flavorful, delectable dark chocolate goodness with Chardonnay sweetness and beneficial nutrients. And it's alcohol-free, too. It's Vine to Bar chocolate. Order some today at vinetobar.com. That's VINETOBAR.com. Cold shipped to your door, it's Vine to Bar. Vine to Bar chocolate. Visit us at vinetobar.com.
Hey, welcome back, America. Bill Martinez here. It's an honor to be talking with Eric Holman. Eric is a former United States Air Force combat controller and two-time Bronze Star Medal recipient. We've been talking about the military suicide rates at an all-time high, and Eric and his team are doing something about it. Eric, I really appreciate this time to address this critical issue that's that our vets are dealing with. Like I said, the numbers anywhere I've heard from 20, maybe as high as 30 a day. I mean, this is unacceptable. And I guess this is what prompted you to do Operation Soul Rescue. Explain to our audience, your foundation and how it's saving the lives of America's elite warriors.
Sure. So I started First Air Foundation after my first supervisor as a combat controller and great friend and teammate took his own life 6 months after leaving the teams. And at that time, I'd been out of the military for about a year, and that's when the demons of war started really affecting me. And, God bless these great individuals and organizations that have programs that reach out to veterans. And there's everything from, and it's a lot of, I think it's physical needs, right? Of guys that have been injured. There's homes out there. They can get a dog. They pay their bills. I mean, there's pretty much any service you can think of. It's available for a veteran. And that was great. But even after all that, there was really nothing, at least for me as a combat controller, there was nothing out there for a combat controller. And a lot of people don't know what a combat controller is. And we've been around since 1953. We've been in every major engagement, every major conflict in peace and in wartime.
Explain a little bit more about a combat controller, because I've only, I'm former Marine Corps, and I had never heard of a combat controller until my son brought it up. I was texting you this morning and asking you some questions about that. So yes, a lot of people do not understand the occupational career of a combat controller. So explain to our audience what you do.
Sure. It's believe it or not, the Air Force has ground guys, right? Special forces, combat control, and pararescue, which are the medics. Combat controllers, it's a 2-year training pipeline or training program. We call it the pipeline. And it's everything from airborne school, Halo school, combat dive, small weapons and tactics, and then air traffic control school, which makes us very unique to the ground force. And what we do, our bread and butter is, and this is the short version, right? When we go to war, we get attached to another soft team, which is either the Green Berets, the SEALs, Marine Raiders, perhaps, or just a very specialized, it's got to be a special forces team.
Right.
And there's only about 300 to 400 combat controllers in the military per year. So when we, for example, Afghanistan, we would deploy and we get farmed out to these different teams. And as we went out on patrols or combat, situations, our job is we got in the firefight, our job is to call in airstrikes or call in a medevac. Pretty much anything that flies, a combat controller handles. And a combat controller prior to that engagement or that firefight is part of the team. He can be a breacher, he can be a driver, he can be a gunner. So you're a team guy. So a combat controller has to know everything on that team that team does, and in the air piece. So it's that fourth dimensional battlefield that a lot of people don't understand. And if you're working with the SEALs, for example, you got to be able to employ with on water. You got to be able to know how to employ that way. An infill from a submarine or from a boat, or if you're working with the Green Berets, sometimes they halo in, which is you're free falling into an objective. So then we also work with coalition special forces. So the GROM, for example, the Polish, the British SAS, the Australian SAS. I mean, we work with anyone that's special forces, and then we got to be able to be just one of the team guys, unless the firefights kick off or someone gets injured. But you're anything, whether it's a drone or humanly piloted, you control that. And it's a lot to know because you're shooting and moving. You're part of the team. You have different teams. Sometimes it's split up during an objective, and you got to keep track of all the ground guys, all the friendlies, plus the aircraft, right? And you're responsible for their deconfliction and altitude too, and how you're bringing them in to strike a target. So combat controller is key to any team. And unfortunately, the media, when you hear like the Bin Laden raid, Captain Phillips, Mogadishu, right, Black Hawk Down, they say Army Special Forces team or Navy SEALs team, but they never say combat controller was the guy that was, protecting his team and making sure that they won that battle. And nothing to take away from the other guys, but it's facts. And any of those guys will tell you that.
Right, exactly. Wow. That is a lot to deal with. And and what do you have, 2 years of training to get up to speed so that you can be dropped into already one of these ready-made teams, whether it's a SEAL team or a Delta Force or any other specialized military fighting mechanism, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's 2 years. It's an 85 to 90% attrition rate. So out of the 20 guys that I started with, when I went through, there was only 4 of us that became combat controllers. And I don't know why the Air Force doesn't advertise our capability very much, but like I said, we've been around for a very long time. And I told one of the team guys I was with, an Army team, I said, "Hey man, you do what you can, and we do what you can't." And I took that from one of my instructors. So it holds true,
Well, exactly. Okay, so tell us first there. So after, this became a personal response for you, right?
Yeah, so I wanted an organization that would look after my community, our teammates and our families. So after Chris took his own life, then I started this out of necessity. And we've been around this is our 3rd year. We have a major fundraiser, which is our Scarlet Beret Gala every September, 9/11 weekend, because of the impact that 9/11 had in our lives. And that's the reason why a lot of us became combat controllers. And after that, though, this last year, I've realized that a lot of these organizations, to include us to begin with, we were just treating the physical, right? Guys that need money or guys that need help with resumes, physical injuries, whatever. Like there's so many of them out there and they do a great job. But what I realized was that even with all that help, and I think the reason the suicide rate's still so high is because no one is treating the soul.
Exactly.
And you can take a guy to the Four Seasons, take him out hunting or show him, I mean, there's so many organizations out there that do a great job. But at the end of that trip or at the end of that therapy, that guy goes back to wherever he's living and he's miserable. And now he's even more miserable because he's not going to have that. And you can, it was happening to me. My relationship with alcohol was terrible, and I knew there was something wrong with me, but I just couldn't figure it out. And the thing that I would do is drink, and it was a way of numbing whatever emptiness or trying to deal with that pain, but it was so hard to understand what it was. And, depression was a big part of it, the lost purpose, survivor's guilt. I had a lot of friends that got killed over there, and it really affected me. And luckily, I say that ayahuasca found me, and it's a plant medicine, and it has some negative connotations, but I guarantee you it's not a drug. It's not anything you party on. It's truly,
it's a natural gift from God, the way I look at it, Eric. I mean, God says that he'll give us the plants for healing, right?
Absolutely. And, I never used to be one of those people. I was always kind of like, whatever, peace, who cares about that? But now as I've gotten older and I realize it, and my teammates, and I'm telling you, if it wasn't for plant medicine and ayahuasca, especially ayahuasca, I wouldn't be around. It just reset my soul, and it's just I'm a better human now. And it's and I've never been into drugs or anything like that, right? Alcohol was, I guess, my drug of choice, which was terrible for you. And now my relationship with alcohol is completely different. I'm happy. I'm a better boyfriend. It's just you become a better human. And we took a couple of my teammates down to Mexico to administer this, and it's done by a facilitator that she studied under the Shipibo people in Peru. And one of the guys was suicidal before we got there. And he told me, he's like, hey, man, I'm only here because I told my friend that I wouldn't kill myself. But if this doesn't work.
Desperate moment here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's like, I'm at the end of my rope. And, it's a ceremony that happens on Friday and Saturday, or a 2-day ceremony. And within 48 hours of doing this, it's the guy was happy. It allows you to unload so much trauma and just, I wish I could tell you exactly what it does, right? We're working with a team of neuroscientists to help and show, right, for those people that want to see the scientific data, that's not just us going down to Mexico to treat these guys, right?
Well, you and I are going to have a whole separate show just on this alone, because I can tell, I know with the SEALs, for example, the series, there was a scene there where the leader, the boss of the team, went and he was dealing with PTSD, and he went and was taking some sort of herb, and I don't know that they used ayahuasca as a specific, but it was an herb that he drank that was a bit of a solution to his mental condition that he was dealing with. Do you remember that at all?
I don't watch that because I think it's kind of comical to me.
I get that. I imagine for you in real life and that sort of thing.
Yeah. But no, I heard someone else told me about that, and it's good. I think a lot of us, we're desperate for a solution, right? And
exactly.
And mushrooms, psilocybin that's in those, it helps tremendously. Microdosing helps. And I'm telling you, I'm a benefactor of that. And I can tell you, I don't care what the science says. I'm telling you that if it wasn't for psilocybin and ayahuasca, I would be dead. My mom would have had a folded flag in her living room because I would have taken my life after I came back from war. And that's hands down.
We're out of time. I got to leave it there. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you. Take care, Eric.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Today, more than ever, our pets are struggling with many of the same health challenges that their owners are struggling with. Medications can sometimes help, but do not address the root cause and can create unwanted side effects. Pet Regen by Go Natural Pets is a revolutionary regenerative plant-based supplement for pets that helps the body heal itself naturally. The results have been extraordinary. The unique ingredients in Pet Regen have countless scientific studies that show their ability to facilitate greater repair, renewal, and regeneration. A few scoops a day can make all the difference. It's safe, effective, affordable, and it works. We guarantee it or your money back. Created by nature, proven by science, loved by pets. That's PetRegen.com, PetRegen.com, or call 737-303-4480. That's 737-303-4480.
Fred Dreyer here for the product I use and love, Balance7.com. Are you suffering with heartburn? Get relief from Balance 7. You know, most people are able to go back to eating the foods they enjoy with Balance 7. Please don't be stubborn. This really works. You're just a sip away from enjoying the foods you like. Try Balance 7 with a money-back guarantee. Are you experiencing fatigue and brain fog? So many people complain that in the afternoon, their energy seems to disappear and the brain becomes foggy. Balance 7 neutralizes the acids in your body. This aids your digestion. The energy from food is more effective, and afternoon brain fog fades away. Balance 7 is the answer. Go to balance7.com or call 800-793-9039. That's 800-793-9039. Mention the code word FRED and get $10 off your order. Call 800-793-9039 and mention the code word FRED. Get heartburn relief and more with my favorite, balance7.com.
BBS Radio TV. If it's not mainstream, it's on BBS Radio TV.